James Lapton for Pro Boxing Fans. Delighted to be joined on Zoom today with JK. JK, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
Very good, thank you. One of Frank Warren's newest recruits. Introduce yourself. For those who don't know, talk to us. Tell us where you're from.
So my name is Jonathan Kumuteo. I live in Finchley. I box for Finchley Boxing Club. I went to school in Finchley, but originally I was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I came here age 7, and I've pretty much lived in and around North London since.
So in terms of moving over from when you were 7, do you have much memories from where you was born? Or
To be fair, I do remember bits and pieces. I just remember playing out a lot, if I'm honest with you. And I actually remember the last school that I went to before I came to the UK. So at the time, I actually wasn't living in Congo. We were living in Zambia, as there was a huge civil war in Congo at the time. So I went to a school in Zambia, and I just remember it was always a long walk. It wasn't a walk that you see those African films, but it was just a long walk to get to school. That was all.
and what was the reason for the move over here?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, what was the reason that you moved over to England?
Um, it's actually a crazy story. I was living in Zambia with my mother. My uncle was the ambassador of Congo to Zambia, so at the time he was touring in Zambia, and my father was studying economics in London. He had a scholarship to study a master's, and he was here since 1998. At the time, it was 2000. No, he was here since 1998, but we moved out of Congo from 2000. And literally one night in 2003, my mom woke me up in the middle of the night / morning, and she said that you're going to live with your father in London, England. And I literally took me to the airport, age 7, on my own, traveled over 7,000 miles to the UK, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, what was that like as a 7-year-old being told, right, get on the plane?
To be fair, I just remember my mom speaking to me in French that day, because at the time French was my first language. So I just remember her saying, "You're going to see your dad in London," and I remember everything apart from how I actually felt, if that makes sense. But I would presume I just didn't know. In a sense, I was too young to really realize how much of a big deal it was, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, it just happened.
Now, talk to me about Finchley. I believe you are good friends with Anthony Joshua, also from Finchley Boxing Club. Talk to me about that friendship and your amateur career down there.
Yep. So I started boxing at Finchley Amateur Boxing Club in 2011. I had my first fight when I was 16 in 2012, October 12th to be precise. I won that against a fighter who had 4 fights and 3 wins under his belt. I actually didn't meet Anthony Joshua through the boxing club. I met him away from the boxing club, and then because he boxed for Finchley and he was a boxer, it kind of made us gravitate together, if that made sense. And then at the time, he was training for the Olympics. So he went away, got his gold medal. And then when he came back, he would come to Finchley Boxing Club every now and then. And then we kind of connected away from the gym and started training together. And then he became some sort of, you know, mentor. And I learned a lot being around him, because, I saw him transition from an Olympic gold medalist into the world champion he is now. So I was definitely very blessed and grateful to have been able to be around. But eventually, how I see it is I became a sponge in the sense that I was around AJ and many others so much that I soaked in a lot of information. But if you don't now apply that to yourself and your own career, then you're nothing but a sponge, if that makes sense. So what I had to do was eventually take myself away from people like AJ and apply what I learned.
So before the friendship had blossomed between yourself and Anthony, when he was
Mm-hmm.
coming down to Finchley with his gold medal, and you've seen what
Mm-hmm.
he's done in the sport at the amateur level,
Mm-hmm.
how much of an inspiration was that for you guys down the gym?
That was very, very, very inspirational, especially for me, because I actually came up watching Floyd Mayweather. And when Instagram first kicked off around 2012, 2013 times, we could now see Floyd's lifestyle a little bit more, aside from watching HBO 24/7. And his lifestyle just seemed so unattainable, if that made sense, you know, and it could get people down. But then when you see a guy like AJ come through, um, normal, just like you and I, which Melva is just like me and yourself. However, his lifestyle is very, very different. And one could think, damn, that is, even if I become world champion, would I live like Floyd? Whereas AJ coming through, staying so humble, remaining the same character he was before the Olympics and after becoming unified world champion, to me was, okay, this can happen, one can achieve this. Do you understand where I'm coming from? So I
Absolutely.
think for me, that was the biggest factor, seeing someone just like yourself, even seeing him getting tired in training, for me, that was big. And that meant a lot to me because when we watched Mayweather train, we never saw him tired. So when we were tired or when we were struggling to push through, struggling to go to the gym certain days, it would make you think like, damn, why can't I just be like Floyd? Because you've never seen Floyd tired, etc., etc. But being around guys like AJ and other great fighters, I've learned that we all get tired. We all get tired. We all have days when we're not feeling up to it. We all go through highs, lows, and in betweens, just like Floyd is going through them right now, post career. However, from what I saw and from what they put out on HBO 24/7 at the time, Showtime All Access, it just seems so unreachable to certain people.
Talking of Floyd, he seems like a very big inspiration throughout your life. He's looking at
Um,
potentially going over to the training side of things. Do you feel that will suit him?
I'm not too sure. I don't know. I mean, I've seen him train his family relatives recently. I think that's very cool. I've also seen him return to training. As a big Floyd fan, I wouldn't say it was my inspiration, but in terms of sport and what he's done inside the ring, he's the number one person that I used to watch all the time to this day, if that makes sense. But to see, in fact, I saw him on Instagram live about 3, 4 weeks ago, physically training. To me, that meant a lot. It was about 6 a.m. here in London, and I saw Floyd went live. I said, okay, let me watch this. And he was training, hitting the bag, still looking in shape, still looking very sharp. And he's what, 43 years old? So things like that mean a lot to me. And speaking of the current climate and the current circumstances, being able to see your mentors do normal life things, it can be very beneficial for many people around the world. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Whereas I've already been blessed enough to first hand be around great athletes and see exactly what's going on rather than see what people want you to see.
Definitely. Um, you've recently signed with Frank Warren, as mentioned at the start of the interview, but you've had a
Yeah,
few health issues that have
yeah.
held back your career. Talk to us and
Hmm.
open up on those.
Yep. So I've been boxing competitively since 2012. About 4 years into my boxing career, I one day just started with an abscess on my underarm, just a little lump. And then I went to see a doctor. Fast forward 6 months, where the doctor gave me medication, just antibiotics, and it started doubling in every day, every other day. And then it got so big that I couldn't put my arm down because it hurt. It was actually an abscess on my underarm. And then I had it drained. I had an operation. It was a minor operation. All they done was drain it and remove the damaged tissue. It was very painful, in my opinion, more painful than the third operation I had, which is on Instagram, and it went viral. People from all over the world saw it. People still message me about it today. But anyways, that happened. I recovered reasonably quick. I was back in the gym, but my skin would always tear open on its own. And a year later, 2 years later, in fact, in 2016, I boxed in the London Under 20 Novices. I won the London Championships. And then in the national semis, I lost, and my coach, Sean Murphy, told me to rest for a week and then get back into training. So as I was resting, I started to feel pain. and I started to feel weak. And this for me, I knew in the back of my mind, you know, the the skin condition that I was suffering from, which is called HS, hidradenitis, was definitely becoming a big problem again. Even though at the time I was actually taking 8 to 16 tablets a day, 8 very strong antibiotics. However, I was still competing, I was still boxing. I had to wear dressings on my underarms every day for 2 years, like massive dressings about this big. But like I said, I still competed. I'm still one of the under 20 London novices. But this time, I just started to feel weak, weak, weak. Had an operation January 2017. I was out for 8 months, 8 months. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. And I was so weak that when I got back in the gym, I wasn't allowed to go boxing straight away. My doctor told me to go to the weights gym and just do a little something, if that makes sense. And I remember I couldn't even do 10 reps of, do you know the Smith machine?
No, not familiar with it.
Okay. So in the gym, there's the bench press, and it has the bar, which which isn't assisted, right? And then there's the one for the softer people, which is assisted, and it's attacked on both sides. So basically, for pulls, it stops. Anyway, I couldn't rep 10 reps without any weights, and the bar was about no more than 15 kg. And for me, that really hurt because for all the years I've been going to the gym, I've never not been able to lift the bar. And literally on, the dumbbells, I literally had to start at 4 kg and build up slowly, slowly, slowly. And that for me was almost heartbreaking because I had literally gone into minus. I didn't start from square one. This was like minus square 10, but I overcame it. Um, the skin condition was still an issue, and I was just chasing down my doctors, chasing down my doctor, my dermatologist. And then finally, after the 2018 season ended, my doctor referred me to a surgeon, and she said that I should look into having plastic surgery. I had the consultation September 18th, 2018, and then fast forward 6 weeks or so, I was operated on. I had a skin graft. They removed skin from my bottom and literally removed my sweat glands in my underarms and replaced that skin, my armpit, with the skin from my bottom. And that worked out very well. I was recovered within 8 weeks, and I've been back in the gym since literally February 2019. And I haven't had any health issues at all since. In fact, I feel fantastic. I feel as though I'm going to be unstoppable.
Fast forward to today, some
Mm-hmm.
positive news. Obviously, I mentioned Frank Warren. You are one
Mm-hmm.
of his newest signings. Tell me, how did that come about, and how pleased are you with that deal?
Yeah, how it came about, I just wanted to be different. And in my opinion, I've put in a lot of work behind the scenes um, to put myself in such a position, if that made sense. So I've come to learn that pro boxing, especially, and in boxing, in fact, it's not just about fighting inside the ring. It's also about the business side of things. I feel that a lot of fighters, they just concentrate on training and fighting. There's a lot more to it. Unless you have the big, huge financial backing and a huge team, you need to also pay attention to that. You need to pay attention to the marketing side. You need to pay attention to your social media, your branding, etc., etc. So I just got in touch with the relevant people. I sat down with everybody. Initially, I was rejected by everyone, but everybody got back in touch. I stayed active. I stayed in the gym. I found a new home, found a new coach as my amateur training coach. Um, Sean Murphy, he couldn't coach me as a professional because he has to cater for over 120 fighters. And he's also the head coach at Finchley ABC. So then in November, I sat down with Andy Aylen at Queensbury. We had a discussion. They initially gave me an offer, which I wasn't really happy with. And in my opinion, it was a good offer. However, I felt as though personally I was worth more because I put in a lot of work. I put in a lot of work, and I've made so many sacrifices, and I've put a lot of money into training. for me.
Sorry,
Are you
lost you
still there?
momentarily there.
Did you hear me?
I lost the end of that, but we've got most of it. Don't worry. Just cut out at the end,
Oh,
froze there. And what's your
okay.
finally? What's your ambitions when you do get your pro debut underway?
To win titles. It's quite simple. To win titles and to eventually, once I have built my name and I have a huge platform to empower the youth because the youth is the next generation. And I had wished somebody had introduced me to boxing when I was a lot younger, but that wasn't the case. But that doesn't mean that I can't introduce others to boxing. You know, I've traveled to over 20 schools all over the UK, junior schools, secondary schools, colleges, sixth forms, private schools, and I took kids for boxing workshops in hope to inspire them through my story and to urge them to have an open and a growth mindset. And I've inspired so many. Literally, I spent time with over 10,000 students, and many of them didn't like boxing before. They thought it was violent. But after, they kept on asking their parents and messaging me on Instagram saying, my son, my daughter's going to start boxing. Thank you very much. You inspired them a lot. So that's what I'm going to keep doing, alongside, of course, winning fights, building my portfolio, building my brand, building myself. But yeah, the first aim, to win titles. Then to empower the youth. If I can do that alongside my career, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely, Jonathan. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for your time today and speaking to pro boxing fans.
Thank you very much. Shout out to everyone at Pro Boxing Fans. Make sure you subscribe and we'll catch up soon.